Mulan,
Mulan.
a movie that you and I, Don, have talked about. We talked about the original 1998 2D animated film
Mhm.
back when we thought that the live action version was going to be coming out soon. And much like everything else this year, it's been pushed back and back. And now it's not even in theaters. It's coming direct to Disney Plus, but with a catch. You pay $30 and you have the privilege of rentoning it. I mean, you
Rentoning it. I love that term.
you essentially get access to the movie if you have a Disney Plus account, and it's with you in perpetuity as long as you have that account.
But
Um,
wait, there's more. If
there
you hang in
is.
long enough, it'll be there in December. On December, no, okay, so
It's
it's
like
gonna
right
be
after
30.
Thanksgiving.
Has this
It's
been
gonna
confirmed?
Yes,
Yes.
today. So it's gonna be $30, and you'll rent own it for perpetuity until like I want to
December. It's like
say
3 months. It's
October.
like
No, it's like November or something. Then it's
mm,
gonna be gone. Then
it's
it's gonna come back December 4th.
okay. December 4th is the number I heard.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
That's like
Uh,
the 90-day window. It's like theatrical
yeah.
yeah.
at this point.
Clever. So
Mm.
that's something that we can talk about because in a previous discussion we were talking about Tenet with E-Man and the idea of that being the big push to get people back to the movies. Since this isn't coming to the theater and it's going straight to Disney Plus, the big question, which we can kind of maybe save till later, unless you want to start with it, is do you think that there's going to be enough interest in people paying $30 for this movie that they can wait 3 months to watch?
Okay.
I'll go first and just say it.
Hmm.
I think those people with big families who are right in the wheelhouse of this movie, I think you could get your money's worth for $30. I mean,
Hmm.
if they're dropping those people who are dropping $20 for 48 hours of Scoob or
Yeah.
Trolls World Tour,
Sure.
what's $10 more for 3 full months of a nice movie and a damn good one too. So I think some families with the disposable income where they are have it can get their money's worth for $30 compared to a weekend with one movie.
Right.
Good.
Um, if I hadn't have seen a screener, and I would have no problem paying $30 for this, for however long I would have it, whatever. I think it's I'm not going to say it's tragic. I think it's a loss that we who knows, maybe one day we will, but we're not introduced to this movie on a big screen because I think it
Mhm.
would play so great on a
Oh
big
yeah.
Yes.
screen.
Yeah.
I mean, just the cinematography is amazing. Um, and that's I had more entertainment value, more pleasure, just more overall satisfaction watching this than trying to understand Tenet in a movie theater.
Oh boy.
Um,
I can't wait to listen to your guys' show.
yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Can't
Yeah.
wait.
if you could understand it. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, the release
yeah,
strategy is backwards, which is fitting.
that's right.
This should have been
That's
in the
right.
theaters, and Tenet should have been on VOD.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Mulan, the story. There are many aspects, not many, there's a couple of aspects about the animated, I guess we could say classic, that I wasn't a huge fan of. I think Mushu outwears his welcome pretty quickly.
You don't
Um,
say.
Hmm.
and it's such a compelling story in and of itself. I don't mind the songs that much, but the this live action movie, has some great comedic injections here and there, and it's it's nice to have compared to the original, where sometimes the comedy is just so overt that it's like whoa, come on. And I get
Yeah.
it, it's
Well,
it's supposed to be for a certain age range, the animated classic, sure. But I think that there's enough here, and this story has been told cinematically many times.
11.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that. It's a classic story that's compelling, that's stirring. I'm always enthralled and interested in seeing how a new version gets done. Um, I think you guys could probably agree with me that this whole live action Disney thing, you know, it's not going away, but I think like halfway into it, and we're past the halfway point because of the amount of live action Disney movies we've had. And and what I say live action remakes, not live action, just period. Live action remakes of their animated films. We're past the halfway point. There's been so many. Around the halfway point, I got like so crazy, especially when they started making sequels of, I won't even. I won't even consider Maleficent a live action remake because at least they're trying to do something different with a character. They're not remaking, a Disney movie. Probably the last, and I wouldn't even consider it. This is how strict I'm getting. I wouldn't even consider The Great Pete's Dragon a live action remake because that's just a remake. Because the original had hybrid live action and animation. I'm talking about live action of animated movies. So it's like, I think when we got to the sequel of the Alice in Wonderland thing with Johnny Depp, that was just a debacle. I mean, that was just nuts. And then the Favreau stuff and everything, it just became so unnecessary to me. Then the concept of Mulan, and then not even before even before the trailer was released, they were saying it's not going to be a musical. It's not going to have a dragon. I'm like, oh, okay. And I think I think they knew that we have a story here that's compelling. You may only know Mulan from the Disney movie, animated movie.
And that's me, yeah.
So we want to show you that there is a story here that's quite compelling in and of itself. And I think that they've accomplished that.
Ian, is this worth $30 to you?
No.
Boom.
I was with this movie for about 20 minutes, and then it really, really lost me. But it lost me in the sense that I enjoyed a lot of what I saw during the last hour and a half or whatever it was, because this is just under 2 hours long. But there were so many like little splinters that kept getting in my way that I was like, I could do without this. I could do without this. Definitely do without that. It looks great. I think the performances are, really strong. But there are certain elements that I feel like the trade-off of saying, okay, we're not going to have the funny dragon, we're not going to have the musical, but we are going to have witches, we are going to have the Force. I mean, this felt very much like a Star Wars Disney movie, and I was like, and also it suffers from the Clark Kent problem, which is you've got Mulan in the 1998 animated version. It's very easy to say you have this very beautiful, teenage, villager girl who cuts off her hair or tucks in her hair, whatever, puts on the suit of armor, and then goes to join up with an army full of men in order for her father not to have to fight this invading horde. Because it's a cartoon and the features are all very simplified, you can say, okay, I guess she just looks like these other boys. The actress, Fei Liu, who plays Mulan in this film, is a very attractive young woman. And at no point when she was dressed up as a boy with these soldiers did I think, oh, she's passing as a boy. Because you look at everybody around her, it's like one of these things is not like the other. This guy's got a mustache. This guy's got 5 o'clock shadow. This guy's got 2 o'clock shadow. You're looking at her. Plus, she tries like twice to quote unquote lower her voice to sound more masculine, and it just sounds like a woman with a cold. So it kept taking me out of the movie. So to the point where she is revealed at the end and she goes into battle. My whole point was, if she's so convincing in this part, why didn't everyone else say, hey man, why are you wearing that dress? They're instantly like, oh my God, she's a girl. It's just, the conceit did not work for me at all. And having said that, I loved the performance.
Because she lowered her hair and she whipped it back and forth.
Yeah, she had her Wonder Woman moment where like, all right, it's on, let's go.
Yeah, and I thought it was
hit the trench.
My point was, and I know it's not the story, but they've already taken liberties. There's that great voiceover thing to help clear up why there's no dragon and why this is not like the other Mulan, where they say there have been many different versions of this legend told throughout time, and this is my version. Very clever to introduce us to the Elseworlds component. But I just think that if it had been more of a like a G.I. Jane or a Private Benjamin thing, where instead of her pretending to be a boy, it was just about her being a woman who was accepted because they were so desperate to have people sign up. And because of the mores of the time, she was the only woman who wanted to sign up. Then I could see that being a cool struggle.
Which is more the case of the legend itself. Like she was in the army for like 12 years.
Yeah,
This wasn't like a summer of like one time thing. Like because the
right.
movie and the animated one both just kind of do the whole this was a one battle save my dad thing. No, she was in the army for years.
And I didn't know that until I looked up on
Yeah.
Wikipedia because they kind of fudged with the ending that the Disney version had, as far as she settled down with
Hmm.
the general, the commander character, who was split into two people for some reason in this telling, but in the end of this movie, she decides to go off and lead become the
Yeah.
leader. Uh, so yeah, it's very fascinating stuff. Again, we're taking so many liberties with this and introducing the magic, witch, and this idea of the chi, and some people are in touch with it so much they can do crouching tiger, hidden dragon. I mean, why was there even an all boys army when they should have just sent her in to kick everyone's butt? uh, I just wanted more out of this movie, but I think it tried to be two different things and it ended just being kind of neither
Hmm.
for me.
Okay. I didn't get that.
Yeah, me neither.
I really liked the way it was told. Pretty much throughout the whole thing. There's a little bit of a middle part, maybe during like some of the training where I was like, okay, we could kind of speed this up. But yeah, I like the introduction of hers, how strong she is with chi, and even the introduction of like, the cute little, crazy part where she's a young girl chasing the chicken all around her little, village area. You get more time spent with the world that she's grown up in, that she's living with, the dynamic of her family. I
That
think,
was nice. Yeah.
yeah, I think it was nice to even this cast is really strong. Um, the father was also in the Farewell.
Yeah, it's Sima. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
good dude.
very, very good. Really soulful performance, I thought.
Mhm.
And I think that, it wasn't not. I don't think any performance really was heavy-handed. I mean,
No.
sure, the villain by
Maybe
Jason
Jason
Scott,
Scott Lee.
but you know what? I
Bit of a
wanted
one-note villain
I
to a
wanted
degree.
him to be kind of mustache twirling. It's
Yeah.
like, because if you were going to compare it to the animated classic, I mean, that villain had a strong presence. He
Indeed.
was, he was drawn big. He had a big voice and everything.
Yeah,
And
Big L Ferrero,
and
man. That
and
voice.
I've always been a big fan of Jason Scott Lee. I think he's
Mhm.
underrated actor, and I've always liked wherever he's shown up. And I think it was just cool to see him back on screen. And
Yeah.
Well, that was the most
Well,
impressive thing to me. One of the most impressive things about the movie was Jason Scott Lee in the costuming and even the performance. He looked almost exactly like his counterpart from the 1998
right.
film. And there's something about his performance where I swear to God, his eyes looked like they were yellow, just like the
hmm
character.
Wow.
Because in the 1998 version, he was this
Yeah.
hulking, almost like inhuman,
Hmm.
monstrous character. You get that in this performance with a guy who's not nearly that big, and I thought he
Sure.
was really impressive. I did like, much like we spent more time with the family, as David mentioned, we spend more time with the villains. Kind of, it's not a whole lot of character development. It's like, well, this guy killed my father, so now I'm going to take over his kingdom
Right.
and ruin everything that he loves. That's fine, but there's something in these performances that really sells it. Even the
See,
witch, who
yeah.
I didn't like her as a concept of there being this supernatural kind of a being in this universe, but I did like her performance and her sort of dynamic with Mulan. I'm like,
Hmm.
they could have done this
Yeah.
without the sword and sorcery and just given it more time between these characters.
Yeah, I
See,
didn't
that's
expect
the
it.
elevation I like.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to have her to have. I thought that this witch would be this kind of one-note character, but I
Mhm.
felt like as the movie progressed, it's like you almost see her have a fondness in a way for Mulan, and her strength, and not just her
Yeah.
not just her chi prowess, but her, this witch saw the impressive determination that Mulan has, and she knew as a woman, or
Mhm.
maybe she was once a woman, now she's a witch woman, but she could relate to what Mulan is coming out of and dealing
Right.
with and trying to overcome. So I was surprised by that dynamic, and that's where I think there's certain aspects of this movie that kind of elevate the story, the traditional story that's been remade so many times
Yeah.
that I haven't seen before.
And that, for me, Gong Li's character of that witch is a big one for me because I don't think, I mean, in the animated one, hulking good presence as it is, it's still kind of a just a hulking big presence. It's the big dude you need to go get. He's the video game boss.
Hmm.
But here you have Gong Li coming in, and her herself. She's a former Chinese ingenue actress. She's
Sure.
come up for years.
Oh
Raised
yeah.
Their Lantern, things like that. So like it's kind of a fun thing to see her in her. I think she's 47 at this point. Come in and play this part as like I don't want to say a sage presence, but that veteran presence, that dynamic foil to the main character, that woman to woman moment and element, which is great. And you get this coming from a woman director and a couple, and a co-woman writer, which is really cool because how many times has maybe this kind of role been, okay, fine, it's been played by a woman or created, created as a woman character, but it still feels very mansplained or just man inserted
Sure.
and kind of all that. This felt the dynamic was strong. The dynamic felt genuine. I really appreciated just the dichotomy that you can
Mm-hmm.
have between those two. And Gong Li is such a wonderful actress that she
Mm-hmm.
can sell that without being the female
Cartoonish.
cartoonish, not the female version of the mustache twirler either, because she could just stand there and sneer,
Mm-hmm.
and like if this was Michelle Rodriguez from Fast and Furious and she just stands there and says skanks every 4 seconds, she didn't have to do that. Like, yeah, she is
Now I want to see
present.
that version.
I know, but Gong Li is still presence. I mean, she's
Mm-hmm.
playing this dark witch, but she still fills her place and fills this room, and she commands that screen. And I know the light special effects are a tough sell, but I mean, by the time you still have Phoenixes flying around, guiding her around, that fantasy element is inserted enough that, okay, fine, let's have a witch. Let's go there. And the fact
Yeah.
that Mulan gets claimed by the naysayers around her to be a witch herself, and then go, no, no, no,
Right.
I'm just a woman now. Could I maybe get to that point of being that? But I won't because I fight for good and not for evil. And
Yeah.
I liked the foil dynamic of those two
Yeah.
characters. Real solid.
There are simple themes, but they're executed really well.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, and I think there's something while I was watching the acting, as much as I love animation, there's something about the performances here. I said the word soulful already, but
Yeah.
there's something about these performances that provide so much more to the
Agreed.
characters than we got out of the animated
Well,
feature.
even on a simple level, like watching Zima's limp. I know you can animate a limp like the father did in
Hmm.
the cartoon, but seeing him try to buckle a
Struggle.
strap and really struggle, and just the way that sword rattles just ever so slightly in a live action performance instead of something you can maybe animate in an over exaggerated way, or just, yeah, a quiver of a speech tone, or
Yeah.
the way an eye will flare here and there, like just so much of that. Even if there's a one note performance to a degree that still has enough quiver to be interesting, it's Jet Li.
Hmm.
Jet Li is just this, let's go kick their asses and get back to being the kingdom of China. And it's Jet Li, which is awesome. But at the same time, he takes what is easily an order shouting, mean guy, which was, Pat Morita back in the animated one. He toughens that part without being, same thing, a one note, gavel banger kind of guy.
Yeah.
Because it's still Jet Li.
If you didn't know any better, you wouldn't know that it was Jet Li. It's like,
Wow.
and I
Just
think
happy
that
he's with us.
right, and I think that you see, I would say the second half of the film, there's almost like just the way the camera sits on him. I think you get more out of the character than we
Yeah.
would have seen even in the first half or in the animated movie. There's like a glint in his eye. There's
Hmm.
there's something more alive.
Yeah.
Sure, it's live action, right? But
Well, yeah.
there is something that's not flat or phoned in. It just feels more
Hmm.
like this actor, and the writing and the direction is just a lot more
Yeah.
you know committed and focused and really there.
Well, with his returning health, is there's that glint is I could still kick your ass if I wanted to.
And he had some quick little action parts. That was
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I had forgotten that Jet Li was in this movie, and I realized, probably halfway through, I'm like, oh, that's Jet Li. But
Yeah.
and I understand that he's not going to be doing a whole lot in this movie, but I just feel like I'm not trying to be disrespectful, guys, but I feel like you're saying, yeah, he's got this glint in his eye and it's great to see him and everything because it's great to see Jet Li, you know, is still with us, as you mentioned. I feel like anybody else could have been in that role, like any, you know, well-trained good actor, and it would have just been the same thing. He was the leader who kind of gives a couple of speeches and then he gets kidnapped and then he has this moment where he, you know, does his little limited thing and then that's kind of it. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I just don't think there's anything special.
You know, I recently rewatched the animated film, and I think that the end scene of this film where he acknowledges her, I thought was a lot more poignant and powerful than what we had seen in the past. I think in passing it was a little bit more of a, well, this is what you'd expect at the end of this kind of a movie, you know. And we have, you know, at first they were going to be like, you destroyed our village, or you destroyed my,
or you get your Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, you destroyed my tower, you know, but you saved our people. But there was just more of a heartfelt connection and acknowledgement of her as a person and not just what she did in this version. But, you know, to me, it isn't really that it was Jet Li, because like I said, I think it was hard to recognize, period. But there was just something about this particular actor playing this role that I thought that he made the role, you know, he made the role into something more than it probably was.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you know his backstory. He's been in poor health the last 3 years with
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like he had it's a hypothyroidism or something like that. He was very debilitated, and this was like his big comeback. It's a nice place to see him back. You know,
it was after those Expendables movies, huh?
Something like that. Yeah. But no, for me, when I paint this movie, I just see every element of it from the animated one and even some of the other stories we've seen just elevated with some thicker weight. You know, in my review, I talked about it being the difference between traits and virtues. Traits are little things you can paint on. They're easy. They're quick. Like you said, giving the villain yellow eyes, quick little trait. You know, giving him a falcon, quick little trait. But virtues are just deeper and thicker, and you get that from. Not only is this bird imposing the way the bird was imposing for a minute in the animated one, no, it's a witch, and she's a foil to your main character. You know, Jason Scott Lee's your mustache twirling villain, but he's got revenge on his mind, and it's Jason Scott Lee. Everybody has more weight. Now, is that humorlessness to a degree? Fine, but I was here for the epic. You know, and Ian knows me with these Disney side characters, like. I was welcome to an epic without shenanigans and sideshow antics. And the idea that you still have this watchful village and family totem in the form of a phoenix instead of a dumbass dragon, you know, keeping an eye on that girl was enough for me. I didn't need it to do more action. I just needed it to show up and give hope and swirl and remind us that, hey, you come up. The symbolism was simple, and all you needed it to do. And the characters and their depth, thanks to some humanity, I think, out of that, like the way David said, off that drawn page is thicker and more virtuous, and I loved it.
You know, going back to what Ian said about, you know, just the whole, it's hard to buy that, you know, none of these guys in the army, these soldiers would pick up that she's a woman. You know, out of all the iterations that I've seen of this, each time I just kind of tend to resolve myself to the fact that it's a period film. Putting it into context, they do not expect to see a woman in their ranks at all. So even if this guy is a little different and a little strange, you know, that it's just, it wouldn't even factor in the pitch of his voice or whatever.
Brother to brother camaraderie.
I would disagree with that, because the society that we're painted with here is that it is a very masculine society. The women are back in the villages, and that's where they stay, and the guys go off to war. Now, if you have a very obvious woman among the ranks of these soldiers, it's not going to be like, oh, that guy's a little weird. It's going to be like, why is this woman, who's very obviously trying to cover up and pose as a masculine soldier, what is she doing here? I feel like that's something that a smart movie would have to resolve and deal with, or have her, you know, I don't know if she can, put some moss in her face to make it look like she's got stubble, or just do a better job of
Sure.
hiding it, because they just put her out there. And I understand it's kind of like the Spider-Man thing where you have with Tobey Maguire, whoever, you have to have him take off his mask for half the movie because it's the recognizable star.
Oh boy.
No.
But with this movie, I'm like, I couldn't buy it, because I'm like, no, she's
Okay.
look, it's her. It's not your best buddy. It's a chick.
Okay,
Yeah,
if I talk, go ahead.
Good.
Dave.
I disagree, just because I don't think that they would even go there. It's like the place of a woman was back at the village. The place of a woman is finding, hooking up with a matchmaker to get the right guy and everything. They just would not even be looking.
Or
this.
a woman, or
I'm not even saying looking for. I'm saying if there's a woman in the ranks of this military that's sent out there to kill people, they're gonna be like, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah, but a woman wouldn't dare either, or most. Or
They're just
all.
not going to expect it. Is what I'm saying.
What I'm saying, it doesn't matter if they
Tough
expect
conceit,
it. If it shows up in their ranks,
If it
they're not,
walks like a duck and talks like a duck.
if I'm in the army and a purple elephant shows up, I'm not gonna be like, I'm not seeing that because it's unexpected. I'm gonna be like, why is this purple elephant here, and how do we get rid of it?
That's not even a good comparison.
It is a good comparison because it's something that
purple
does
elephant.
not belong.
Purple elephant.
It's
She looked like everybody else.
Yeah.
But I'm saying she didn't. She was wearing the same uniform.
To
Are you
them,
guys trying to do the
she
Asians
looked
all
like
look the
everybody
same
else. Yeah,
No,
right.
I'm not doing that.
Just checking.
No,
Just
she
checking you
looked
two.
like a guy. She looked like everybody else. The same kind of armor, the same kind of dress up, and
Let's
everything.
take the armor away from it. When they're hanging out in the barracks and they're just like in their robes and they don't have anything going on, you can tell she has very feminine features. I was looking out for this because I'm wondering, how are they not seeing that they know what women look like? They have spent time around young women. They talk
I got
about
sisters.
Yes, they have sisters, they have mothers, they understand what they're looking at. So even when they're out of, they're just hanging out in the barracks or whatever you would call them, there's no way that I'm looking over at this person and saying, wow, that's a really feminine looking and sounding soldier that has been through a lot and has been, requisitioned to fight in this war.
Okay. I get it. Tough conceit. I understand.
Yeah.
It will. Yeah. You won't. I bet. I guarantee you're not the only one that will have that spot.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Sure.
But I mean, as far as the rest of the fantasy stuff, like the Phoenix, I mean, I thought it was nice. The whole, the broken bird statue at the beginning, that was a really nice moment. I think when she sees the image of the Phoenix the first time, that's cool. When it keeps showing up, and then you've got the witch turning into the bird, all I could think of was the crow, down to, some of those same shots. And that's the thing. It's like I'm watching this sort of speaking the language of this other movie that's completely unrelated, and I'm still not sure of what it's doing in this movie. I think the strength that the 98 Mulan had, by limiting the magic to Mushu the dragon, who only kind of showed up to be this wacky sidekick character, which, I know you have a certain feeling about it, guys, but it's not like Mushu was, turning into a 90-foot dragon and vanquishing all the bad guys. He was just there as comic relief. Yeah. There was no real magic inherent in Mulan's journey. She had to prove herself. She had to be really smart and witty in combat. In this film, she's so magical from the very beginning. Her dad is like trying to conceal the fact that she basically has superpowers. That thing where she's chasing the chicken, she does these crouching tiger moves. Everyone's calling her a witch. It's not because, they think that she's, able to cast spells or whatever. It's because she's doing these weird flips and twirls and acting really unnaturally. So when you've got a character who's going on a very particular journey in one iteration of a story that has a lot to say about society and combat and proving yourself in a world of men, and you basically say, well, she's got magical powers, so this is going to be kind of easy and breezy for her. I just think it kind of loses the point.
They don't explain it like the Force or anything.
No.
They do, because they say when you're really strong with the chi, you're connected, and you've got these, you've got these abilities
I've
and this
seen Kung
power.
Fu Panda 3 too. I know.
Yeah,
Right, but that's what I'm saying. This element is, and that's why this Disney Star Wars kind of influence in here. You've got the witch character who's got that. You've got Mulan who has it. The only other person in this universe who seems to have it is the Emperor, because he kind of manifests that at the end with that crazy curtain trick. So I'm like, all right, what is this weird Jedi nonsense doing in here? Where's the story about this girl coming up and proving herself, developing this camaraderie bond, and not just a crush on the one kind of random cute soldier who's been bisected with this other general character?
I actually didn't mind how it was introduced, even at a young age, because it explained how she stands out among everybody else, and how she would look.
Do that. They can't do that without giving her magical powers. What kind of message is that for young kids?
Yeah, I don't.
That's Disney. Always has been.
I don't see it as
Edgar Rice Burroughs didn't write talking animals.
Tarzan, no, but Tarzan didn't have magical powers. He was raised by these characters.
Yeah, but in a Disney movie, we have Rosie O'Donnell being his best friend elephant. It's the Disneyfication that's always going to be there.
We're not talking about the funny sidekick characters. We're talking about the innate magic that's in these characters.
But that's we could do the same with Mice and Cinderella. We can do this. I mean,
but what I'm saying is the iteration of this story. You're introducing a fantastical element in a story that has not shown it so far.
But I would say that this, because they established this at an early age, is that this is what she got into. This is what she was passionate about at an early age.
Go to Pocahontas, same thing. You take a historical story, Disneyfy it for fun, and that's what you do.
But you didn't have Pocahontas like levitating and shit.
You're talking to trees and jumping off. She was the Mary Sue of the woods. Don't worry.
No, but what I'm saying is she didn't have any magical supernatural abilities. Aside from the Disney conceit of being able to talk to animals and things. If you're going to introduce a character with these kinds of powers in a movie, I think you need to explain that a bit more and not have it just be a crutch later on in the story when it calls for it. She does not struggle in this movie. Even when she's like lifting the water and walking up the mountain, of course, all the guys are going to fall behind because they're weak, and she's just like, I got this.
But she's not using any magical powers when she's climbing up the mountain with the water.
Or getting bested by her fellow soldiers in the fight in the ring.
This is what I'm saying. This is an inconsistent movie. I say have her struggle for it.
I can't do that. No.
Have her struggle for it, or just have it be something that use it in a more responsible, intuitive way.
She's persevering because out of all of them, she has something more to prove to herself and to her family. And the reason why she's doing this isn't just because she's a guy and she's expected to be a soldier. She's doing this because of her love of her father.
I guess. And that's something I think that came across more in the '98 version than this thing that's introducing all these different elements.
I think it's
and convoluting it.
You got an heirloom sword coming your way with the same virtues chiseled into it that you got chiseled into souls. I loved it.
Right.
All right, I'll pivot for us. How was the music for everybody?
That was fine.
I didn't even notice it. It
was
music.
You can't hear those Jerry Goldsmith.
It was music.
Come on.
There was nothing revelatory or groundbreaking about the score. It was well done.
Wow.
That's all I'm looking for. They call back to Goldsmith and
there were overture nods to Goldsmith's score. Harry Gregson Williams.
To be. Yeah.
Yeah. And even at the end you had,
the credits, you had 3 great songs.
Christina Aguilera doing another song.
I turned it off when the credits started. I don't.
You missed 3 good songs. Okay.
I guess
Was it 3?
I'm not going to be poor for it.
Yeah, 3.
Yeah,
you had Aguilera covering her original. You had Yifi doing her Mandarin version of Reflection.
That's right. I heard that.
And then Christina's new one, like the new original that will probably be an Oscar contender because there's nothing else this year.
The New Originals was also one of the bands in Spinal Tap, by the way.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, I think that song was Loyal, Brave, True.
Loyal, Brave, True, and it's Aguilera again.
What about Devotion to Family? That was the 4th one.
Yeah, that's the remix.
You can't rhyme with that. Yeah, come on.
The remix.
Yeah.
We haven't said much about Donnie Yen, and I did get a kick out of him being in here because, again, kind of like what I was saying about some other roles in this movie is, I barely remember the commander from the animated feature, and I think that his presence here, obviously, the screenplay includes him a lot more in this movie, but I think because he's played by Donnie Yen, I think there's a little bit more, gravitas to it, and just more interest from this viewer, at least. Like what's he going to do with this role? What's he going to do with this character? Is it going to be a stereotypical role? But I found it to be another great addition to the cast.
Agreed. Seconded.
Sure.
I'm gonna steer him there.
I didn't. It's nice to see Donnie Yen. You got a little bit of action time, and you got some quiet scenes with Mulan. But as far as bringing something, there's nothing wrong with delivering a performance that does exactly what is called for. And I think that's what he does here. I'm not going to remember anything about the performance except that Donnie Yen played the role.
Yeah. Did y'all catch Ming-Na, the original Mulan?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
at
was
the
awesome.
end.
Nice
At the
touch.
end. That was great.
Nice touch.
Do you, Ian, if you were told that, and I'm telling you now, if you were told that there was a bunch of like deleted scenes at some point, if maybe there was going to be a version that would include those, or at least a Blu-ray come out, would you be interested in seeing like what was edited out?
Deleted scenes regarding what? Do you have something in particular in
I don't
mind? Do you know
know.
something I don't?
No.
Oh,
I just
no.
know
Go
that
call
there's.
Francis Ford Coppola while
I
we're
just know
making
that
Godfather
there's
3 today, right?
Yeah, I just know that there's a bunch of deleted scenes that
Okay.
were edited out, like almost like a half hour's worth.
Damn, that's a lot.
Yeah.
If they were scenes that could be re-edited back in place of all the magic
director's
nonsense,
cut?
I would totally watch that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. One of my problems with the original is the not just that there's Mushu's a bit much. It's just that one of the things is it's overtly Eddie Murphy, and it's like Sean Connery in Dragonheart. It's like I know that that's Sean Connery voicing a dragon. It's like I am the last one. It's like that's
Very
like
good Connery, by the way, David.
When you have Mushu just like riffing like Eddie Murphy, I'm like that's Eddie Murphy. Now I get that only a particular audience would know that, but it's just distracting, and that's what I appreciate
That's
about
the
this
Robin
version.
Williams syndrome right there, because as soon as he was a big hit in Aladdin, celebrity voices were a thing for the next 25 zillion years.
Yeah.
But I guess that's what I
Still
appreciate the most about this movie is that it is kind of distraction free. You don't get all those little moments. We're not breaking out into song, although some of the songs from the '98 version I don't mind at all. I think that this was at times, even on a visual level, I think it was just flat out breathtaking. Just some of the vistas and some of the locations were just like, wow, I want to go there.
Yeah, New Zealand.
Even
and China,
even the inserts when Mulan was getting made up because she was going to see the matchmaker.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean that stuff was beautiful. The splashes of color, even the sound of like the brushes hitting lips and things
the
like
editing.
that. Yeah, it was, and even the I don't know if this was from the '98 version, but it felt like it was something that was inspired by a cartoon. The place setting of the dishes where they're just kind of popping into place there. Briefly.
That was a nice
great
touch.
stuff. Yeah, I said,
I
I loved this movie for the first 20 minutes, and then I just kind of thought it was all right to.
What did you guys think of the in the animated version? The avalanche scene was such a big deal. What did you guys think of it in this movie?
hard to pull off in this one, but because I think what elevates the moment for me or helps it helps redeem it from the animated one, because the animated one's really good. Well, two things. One, more people actually get killed, because let's be honest, no one's digging their way out of a damn avalanche.
Right.
And two, she has her Wonder Woman reveal moment beforehand instead of after. So when she spurs into this battle, dropping her armor and letting that hair fly like a shampoo commercial, that has already happened, making her heroism in that moment just, I don't know, bigger, bolder, and more her. Because it's, in the animated one, she doesn't get, her secret doesn't come out till they treat her wounds afterwards.
Right.
And instead, it becomes an elevated badass central peak moment. I love that.
Yeah.
I didn't care for that. And honestly, as far as the moment that preceded the avalanche, I like the idea of her sneaking around the enemy
with her bow and arrow.
Right, with her bow and arrow, and them posing with the helmets to get them to turn the giant catapult around and start the avalanche. My problem then was with her firing those arrows. It was straight out of those were elven powers, with her like constantly like shooting and reloading. That was Legolas. I'm like, this is complete nonsense.
That was the magic part you didn't like.
Yeah. I mean, whenever this movie needs a bit of convenience or superheroism, it's not afraid to dip into that bucket. I'm like, this is not as honest a character study as even the '98 Mulan was. Without Mushu,
Well, yeah.
please. No, we've been crapping on Mushu a lot. That sounds really bad, but I really
Deservedly
liked.
so.
No, I liked Eddie Murphy a lot in that movie. I don't necessarily care for the character because he is an annoying Disney sidekick, but I think for what he did, I thought he was funny, completely unnecessary. Sure,
Yeah.
I don't think he subtracted from the movie because there was enough going on around him that it wasn't Robin Williams changing into 25 different outfits.
Yeah. He wasn't Donkey from Shrek yet, but was
Right.
going to get there. Yeah.
Within a mere 3 years, or 4.
Ah.
Oh boy, was that a donkey bray? That was pretty good.
It goes with his Connery,
Oh well, any closing thoughts? I think we've touched on a lot of the key points here with Mulan. Yeah, and that's the hard part. You asked me, Don, at the beginning or towards the beginning of this, is it worth $30? And I'm conflicted. But, I think it's something that, and I mentioned this beforehand, even though I don't care for the movie, I think I would have felt better going to see this in a movie theater because it does deserve to be seen on the screen. There's so much artistry and care that went into just the production of it that it's truly great. I just don't know that. And I know the $30 is like, well, it's mom and dad. That's the cost of the ticket, and the price of the 4 kids, you actually save money. For me, it's regardless of my employment status, it's hard to say, okay, I'm just going to enter $30 into my onto the computer and buy a movie that I'll be able to watch in 3 months for quote unquote free.
So, do you think the fact that I think they just announced it today that it's going to be there December 4th. Do you think they did that to save their butts? Because they could have announced that 2 weeks after.
Yes.
And said, by the way, this is coming out December 4th. Everybody be like, what do you mean? I paid $30 for it. I could have waited.
They kind of did that with I don't know if it was Onward. Was it Onward?
They gave you the window of Onward before they dropped Onward.
But that's totally different.
Extenuating circumstances.
Totally different because that was pre-pandemic, and
Well,
they didn't know that they were going to do that.
Well, we said this on this show where if they really wanted to rake and make money, they should have did it with Hamilton. Because everyone and their brother would have paid $30 to not go to Broadway and watch Hamilton as much as you want for as long as you would have told them to.
Yeah, I mean that's a bona fide
the boat.
Pop culture phenomenon.
Oh yeah. Sure. But I think I know I was hesitant because people would ask like, Don, you think it's worth it? And I'm like, depends on how long. If it was Onward and it was 2 weeks, hell no.
Right.
3 months, like a DVD theater window, closer to being a good. I mean, I think it's a good deal anyway, but better, more palatable. Now, if this was like 6 months or a year, you're getting your money's worth.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
But I think if 3 months, you're still getting your money's worth.
And I would watch it again. I think it's rewatchable.
I can't wait to watch it.
I asked my daughter, "Do you want to watch this with me?" She's getting into high school, 14, and she's like, "Yeah," but she was taking forever, and I'm like, "I got to watch this," And then she saw me watching it, and she never joined, and I'm like, whatever. If I pay $30, she'll probably watch it, right?
Right.
Here I am. I have a screener.
To not have your name waterlinked in front of it. Your watermarked in front of it.
Don't get me started on that.
Yeah.
Every time I'm reminded of myself, but every time I watch a movie with a watermark of my name, I just feel like, am I starring in this movie?
Especially in the credits, right? When it's like a black screen with credits and like, oh wow, I'm famous.
Donnie Yen.
I got to work on my, Korean dub torrent of Tenet to catch up to you guys. So, I'll get there.
Believe me, even in Korean dubbing,
you might understand it better.
Well, that's true.
I'll work on the subtitles.
All right. Well, thanks again, guys, for talking about Mulan. I know we came down on different sides of it, but I'm oddly conflicted. I didn't hate the movie. I liked a lot of it, which made the parts that I didn't like that much more frustrating for me on a personal level. I'm really glad you enjoyed it and you got so much out of it, and that you're recommending that people spend their hard-earned cash on top of that Disney Plus subscription to bring this into their homes.
Let's get down to business. Oh, sorry.
It's a girl worth fighting for. A girl worth paying for. Oh, wait, that's
she's a girl worth paying for. Uh-oh. I did miss Harvey Feinstein's raspy voice.
Oh, gosh, I do not miss Harvey Feinstein's raspy voice.
Wait.
Talk when you hear him, it's hard. It's as bad as Eddie Murphy because you hear him and it's like, oh, gosh, here we go.
Real quick before you go, was the line "I don't care what she looks like, I care what she cooks like"? Was that from one of the songs? Was
Yeah.
that from okay?
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah.
just stuck out as such a
like, why would
we're
you say
drawing
that?
Yeah, we're drawing attention to this line. I was like, that sounds familiar to me. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again, guys, and we'll catch up on more movies later.
All
Take
right.
care, fellas.
Thank you.
Bye.